Alone on Valentine's Day, she discovered amazing love when a CEO exposed his heartwarming surprise. The diner buzzed with the soft hum of conversations, but for Emma, the clinking of silverware was a reminder of her own solitude. It was Valentine's Day, and while couples snuggled in booths, sharing laughter over heart-shaped pancakes, Emma wiped down tables, her heart heavy with dreams of owning her own business. The warmth of the community around her pulsed in harmony with the sizzling grill, yet she felt an ache deep within, a bittersweet longing for love that felt as real as the diner's comforting smell of brewed coffee. Jack, miles away in a bustling city, was trapped in a whirlwind of deadlines and unending meetings. The CEO of a successful tech firm, he climbed the ladder of success, yet loneliness clawed at him. On a whim, he decided to return to his Midwestern hometown, to visit his aging mother. As he strolled downtown, he overheard a couple raving about the classic diner he once loved. It was a place filled with fond memories. Something stirred within him, and he felt compelled to step inside. When Jack walked through the diner doors, the warmth enveloped him, but there was something else. Attention. Emma caught a glimpse of him. A polished suit, expensive shoes. She immediately dismissed him. This was a man of privilege, detached from the reality she lived daily. Yet, there was a flicker of vulnerability in his eyes that intrigued her. They fell into conversation, peeling back layers of assumptions, discovering a shared history rooted in the same town. Laughter bubbled between them, forging an unexpected bond. Emma felt her defenses slip. She was drawn to him, but doubt lingered. Just as they began to connect, a scandal erupted. Jack's company was accused of threatening local jobs with automation. Emma's heart sunk, torn between the growing affection for this man and the community she fiercely loved. How could she reconcile her feelings with the anger that boiled in her town? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Emma wrestled with her feelings, Jack felt the weight of expectations. Here he was, an outsider in his own hometown, yet he felt a pull toward Emma that he hadn't sought. Each moment together crackled with excitement and uncertainty, a testament to their raw emotions. With tension mounting, Jack faced an unbearable choice: remain loyal to the facade of success he'd built, or stand up against an economic injustice that threatened his roots. Emma watched, tension alive in the air, wondering if their connection was strong enough to withstand the storm brewing around them. Just as Jack opened his mouth to voice his decision, the door swung open, revealing an unexpected visitor, one who could change everything. Emma's breath caught in her throat. What would happen next? The door swung wide, and in walked Sarah, Emma's childhood friend. Her entry was dramatic, brightening the diner despite the brewing storm around Jack and Emma. With her wild curls and contagious laugh, Sarah seemed like a whirlwind, effortlessly drawing attention as she navigated her way through the small space, waving and greeting patrons like she owned the place. Emma! I thought I'd find you here. Sarah beamed, her voice carrying over the chatter. She glanced around, only to freeze when she noticed Jack. The expression on her face morphed from joy to surprised recognition. Jack! Is that really you? Emma's heart raced, a mix of panic and curiosity fluttering within her. She hadn't expected to see Sarah tonight, nor this sudden twist in the plot of her Valentine's Day. Jack's smile faded as he registered the weight of Sarah's recognition. A shroud of caution painted over their previously open conversation, the tension snapping like a fraying thread. Hey, Sarah. Jack replied, attempting to regain composure. It struck Emma how quickly their dynamic shifted. The easy laughter they had just shared felt vulnerable now, overshadowed by the past connections they both had. Emma stepped forward, aware of Sarah's keen observant nature. You know each other? Just from around, Sarah said, still eyeing Jack with curiosity tinged with skepticism. She turned to Emma, eyebrows raised. "Wondering how you ended up chatting with the town's infamous CEO?" Jack shrugged, a hint of defensiveness creeping into his voice. "Infamous, huh? I'm just here visiting family." "Yeah, right after the accusations flying around about your company." "Kind of bold of you to show your face here," Sarah shot back, eyes narrowing slightly. For a moment, Emma felt torn between her loyalty to Sarah and her growing connection with Jack. Jack's expression darkened at the mention of the scandal, hurt flickering in his eyes. "I know what's being said, but I came back to talk about it." "About how to help." "Help?" Emma interjected, feeling her instincts take over. "You mean help with the fallout from your choices? You're the reason so many of our friends are scared for their jobs." "That's not fair," Jack said, his voice low. "I'm trying to find a way to navigate this without losing what matters." "Like what?" "Your bottom line." Emma's voice rose. Suddenly, it felt as if the walls were closing in. Jack looked hurt, and she hated that their moment had crumbled so quickly. But Sarah's protective energy only intensified, and the diner felt alive with their shared history. What if we talked about this?" Jack suggested, trying to regain control. "I'm back here because I want to understand, to help fix this." Emma hesitated. A part of her desperately wanted to believe him, but the fear of betrayal loomed larger. The diner, usually a sanctuary, now felt like a battlefield, her hopes and heart warring against the reality unfolding. Sarah remained steadfast, crossing her arms defiantly. "Let's be real, Emma. Are you really willing to risk everything for this guy? He's part of the machine that could tear us all apart." Their eyes locked, and in that moment, Emma realized how fragile their bond had grown in just a few hours. She looked back at Jack, who was waiting for her response, his eyes pleading for her trust. An uneasy silence settled, thick with uncertainty and potential. Would she stand with her community or take a chance on Jack and his promise to make things right? Just then, a loud commotion erupted from outside. The diner's door swung open again, and they could hear shouts growing louder, an unexpected crowd gathering. Emma's heart sank, fear clawing at her chest. Whatever was happening out there, she knew it was about to expose everything they had been trying to navigate inside. What would they face together now? Emma took a breath, holding the weight of her decision tightly. The shouting grew louder, a cacophony that seeped into the diner, sending chills down Emma's spine. She instinctively stepped back, moving slightly closer to Jack, feeling the warmth of his presence despite the tension. Sarah stood firmly in front of her, eyes narrowed at Jack as though he were a volcano ready to erupt. "What is going on out there?" Emma asked, her voice small but steady. She glanced out the window, trying to catch a glimpse of the commotion. All she could see were blurred shadows, people pushing against one another, faces twisted in confusion and anger. It felt like the outside world was crashing in, ready to shatter the fragile moment they had built. "Maybe we should check," Sarah suggested, still not letting her guard down. "It could be something serious." Jack nodded, his expression shifting from remorse to determination. "I'll go first." "It might be about the company," he said, looking at both women. There was something in his tone that spoke of responsibility, a passion he had yet to fully show. "Be careful," Emma cautioned, her heart pounding with unease at the thought of him stepping into that chaos. She didn't know where their relationship stood anymore. Could trust really be built on this quicksand of old ties and new threats? Jack moved toward the door, and Emma took a deep breath, feeling a mix of anxiety and hope. What if he could turn this around? What if he honestly wanted to help? But the remnants of doubt lingered, and she was reminded of how quickly safety could vanish. Suddenly, Jack turned. "Stay here, Emma. It could get rough." His eyes searched hers, and for a few seconds, the world outside faded. That connection, that spark, still thrived amidst the clamor of uncertainty. "I'll come with you," she blurted, wanting to stand by him. Watching him face whatever was coming felt like the least she could do. "Emma, please," Jack said, a hint of desperation creeping into his voice. "It's not safe. Neither is staying here, Jack. We have to stick together, no matter what." At her insistence, she felt a spark of bravery ignite in her. As chaotic as their situation seemed, what did she have to lose? Sarah, realizing they wouldn't back down, sighed with resignation. "Fine. But I'm in front. I'm not letting either of you get hurt." The fierceness of her protectiveness was tangible and oddly comforting. They stepped outside into a whirlwind of voices. The din of a crowd pressed in, debating fiercely, fueling the adrenaline coursing through Emma's veins. She felt Jack's hand brush against hers, and she instinctively grasped his fingers, creating an unspoken promise between them. Together or apart, they would face whatever storm brewed. The scene unfolded before them like a live drama. Strangers spoke passionately, holding signs, their voices a mixture of outrage and determination. Emma could make out snippets of conversation about layoffs, betrayal, and community. It was a reflection of the chaos swirling in her heart, the people in the crowd echoing the fears she had yet to voice. Jack stepped closer to his old town friends, their faces a mixture of anger and desperation. "I'm here to talk," he called out, his voice rising above the chaos. It was bold, but Emma could see the fear flickering behind his stoic facade. Before she could process his words, someone shouted back, "You think you can just walk back in here and fix this? We're done listening to you." Emma's grip on Jack tightened, sensing the fracture lines in his confidence. The tension was palpable, and the crowd churned, the energy shifting unpredictably. Each heartbeat echoed in her ears. Would Jack's intentions be enough? Her heartbeat quickened as she wondered what this night would unveil. Were they fighting for a potential future together, or was this a fated reckoning of what had been lost? But then, amid the escalating emotions, Emma felt a flicker of determination ignite. Whatever the outcome, she knew she wasn't ready to walk away. "Jack!" she shouted, filled with newfound resolve. "Bring them together. Show them you care." And in that moment, she understood. Love and community were intertwined, built on trust and vulnerability. Would they all rise up together or fall apart, with the storm brewing on one side and the fear of abandonment looming on the other? Everything they all cared for was about to clash head-on. What would it take to unite them in this chaotic moment? Jack's eyes widened at Emma's sudden burst of courage. He turned to the crowd once again, searching its faces. His heart hammered in his chest. Could he really bridge this divide? Was there still enough hope left to mend what had been broken? "Listen to me," he called out, his voice strained but steady. "I know I messed up. I'm not here to make excuses. I want to help." He raised his hands, palms forward, a gesture of surrender to the anger that surrounded him. The murmurs in the crowd grew louder. Some people leaned closer, drawn in by the raw sincerity in his words, while others remained stone-faced, arms crossed defiantly. Sarah stood between them and Jack, her eyes scanning for any sign of escalating aggression. "Help!" someone shouted from the back. "You think we can trust you? You abandoned us when we needed you most." Jack's breath quickened. Emma felt his hand tighten around hers. She could sense the turmoil within him. But instead of withdrawing, he took a step forward. "Just hear me out," he pleaded. "The layoffs were never my decision. I fought to save jobs, to keep this community intact. I wish I could turn back time, but I can't. What I can do now is listen. We can find a way through this together, but I can't do it alone." The crowd swayed, uncertainty flickering like candlelight. Emma glanced at Sarah, who looked just as anxious. Would their small act of unity be enough to shift the tide? People in this town don't want more empty promises. Another voice echoed, cutting through the noise. It was a familiar face, an old colleague of Jack's. Emma recalled seeing them at the diner many times. "We want action. You want to make it right? Show us." "Yeah." Someone else chimed in, anger swelling beneath the surface. Tell us how you plan to help. Jack looked from one face to another, desperation creeping into his eyes. I'll put my resources into building a community fund, he said, words tumbling out of him. We can start local projects, create jobs, and bring in funds from outside. But I need your help too. I want to hear your ideas. Tell me what you need, not just what went wrong. The shift in the crowd was almost palpable. Emma felt the temperature drop and rise, like a tide washing in and out. Some listeners leaned toward Jack, testing his commitment, weighing his sincerity against years of disappointment. Encouraged by their tentative interest, Emma summoned her own courage. Together, we can build something better, she added. Her heart raced, feeling the power in simply speaking the truth. We've all been hurt, but we can't let that tear us apart. We're stronger united. She turned to Jack, who was staring at her with a mix of admiration and surprise. Bring them together, Jack. Don't be afraid to take this leap, she whispered, her voice barely audible above the crowd's swarming energy. Slowly, a few people began to nod, their faces softening. Emma dared to hope. Okay, let us hear what the community wants. Someone finally called out, stepping away from their defensiveness. Let us come together and really talk. Suddenly, the floodgates opened. Voices pierced the air, overlapping, as they began to share ideas and grievances, generating a whirlwind of emotions. Jack's posture shifted from guarded to open, and he reached for Emma's hand, giving it a reassuring squeeze as the crowd buzzed, but just as a sense of unity began to dawn, a loud crash erupted from the edge of the crowd. A figure stumbled forward, shouting obscenities, brandishing a broken sign. The atmosphere thickened with renewed tension, and seconds felt like hours. Emma's heart raced. What had started as a glimmer of hope was now threatened by the anger still present, ready to boil over. Would they be able to hold on to this fragile moment of connection, or would chaos reign once more? The crowd's energy was electric, and the path forward lay uncertain before them. What would happen next? The sudden crash sent shockwaves through the crowd. Jack and Emma turned to see the figure staggering closer, face twisted in rage, eyes wild with desperation. The broken sign depicted their community's previous pride, now shattered and discarded. What are you doing here? The man yelled, his voice raw and slicing through the air. You think you can just waltz back in here and pretend everything's fine? We know what you did. Fear gripped Emma's heart, but she felt Jack tighten his hold on her hand. Stay calm, he whispered, even as the chaos unfolded around them. The small gathering shifted uneasily. Some expressions turned into scowls, while others looked bewildered, unsure of how to respond. Let him talk. Someone shouted, and a flicker of hope sparked as some began to nod in support of the man's outburst. Emma could see Jack swallow hard. He was fighting to keep control, both of himself and the crowd. Listen. Jack called out again, his voice cutting through the noise. None of us can move on without talking about the hurt. This anger you feel is valid. I understand that. Let us hear your concerns. The man stopped, party blocked by emotions. You think listening is enough? Look at the mess you made. Families are suffering. People lost their homes. Emma's heart twisted at the man's pain. She couldn't imagine what it felt like to have trust shattered, and it felt like Jack was facing a mountain of expectations, one that might crush him, but as she glanced around, she saw faces filled with more than just anger. There were questions, and deep down, a yearning for connection. This could become something greater if they allowed it. Maybe we could start by recognizing what we've lost, Emma suggested, stepping forward slightly, her voice steady. We all have our stories. I think sharing them could bring us closer, could help us heal. Jack looked at her, admiration mixed with gratitude shining in his eyes. The crowd quieted, drawn in by the vulnerability that hung in the air. You're right, Jack said, finding the strength to speak again. Let us hear from everyone. I want to know how we can work together to restore this community. Let us open the floor. Tell us your stories, your ideas. More murmurs rippled through the crowd, with voices rising in supportive affirmation. Each moment brought tension and release, the energy shifting. The angry man hesitated, but slowly lowered his sign, eyes darting among the crowd, gauging their reactions. "Fine," he shouted. "I'll go first." With a mix of trepidation and strength, he began to speak about his struggles, the burden of unemployment, and the weight of watching his friends leave town for good. His voice cracked, the rawness of his experience pulling others in. One by one, stories flowed like a river, each person reliving their losses, fears, and dreams. Tears started to fall, but there were also glimmers of determination. In this painful sharing, the crowd began to forge a bond, realizing they were not alone in their suffering. The sense of division began to dissolve, replaced by a fragile unity. Jack looked around, knowing they had to seize this moment, this catharsis. It was now or never. "Together, we can make it better," Jack reiterated, hope igniting in his chest. "We can help each other." But just as the tide seemed to shift in favor of collaboration, a woman emerged from the back, her expression unreadable. She stepped into the spotlight with a thick folder in her hands, and the crowd hushed, sensing the gravity of her presence. "I have something important to say," she began, her voice filled with urgency that echoed through the gathering. "What was in that folder?" Emma felt a chill rush through her as anticipation wrestled with dread. Would this be a step forward or a step back into chaos? The night had shifted, but where would they land next? The woman held the folder tightly, her knuckles whitening as she peered into the crowd. A hush fell over them, almost tangible in its intensity. Emma could feel her heart racing, a mix of hope and fear swirling within her. Jack's grip on her hand tightened, grounding her in the moment as they both waited for the woman to continue. "What's your name?" Someone finally called from the back, breaking the spell. "Rebecca," she replied, her voice steadying. "And I've brought something that could change everything." Jack exchanged a glance with Emma that spoke volumes: curiosity, concern, a little excitement. Emma's mind raced, imagining what it could be. Perhaps it was a plan to bring resources back to their community, something concrete to help mend the broken pieces. Or maybe it was news that could tear everything down again. Rebecca took a deep breath and opened the folder. "This contains information about the funding that was promised to us 3 years ago. After the storm hit, we started a petition for assistance," but her voice faded slightly, frustration seeping through. "They ignored us. We were left to fend for ourselves while leaders turned their backs." Gasps ran through the crowd as Rebecca continued. "I've spoken to representatives from the state. There's a chance we can still reclaim those funds if we act fast. But we need to unite. We need every voice, every story to push back against the neglect we've faced." A spark ignited among the people, their expressions shifting from hopelessness to something resembling resilience. Jack stepped forward, sensing the moment's weight. "This is our chance. We must gather our stories, our pain, and unite them into something unstoppable." "What do we need to do?" shouted a woman from the front, urgency pulsing through her. "Meetings, rallies, petitions. We need to show them that we're not broken." Jack's voice rang clear, an echo of determination that began to light a fire. "We have to be loud. We need to call out for what has always belonged to us." Rebecca nodded, the fight shining in her eyes. "That's right. If we act together, if you all will stand with me, we can pressure them to finally hear us, to finally take action." Emma felt a rush, excitement mingled with fear. It was terrifying to confront their past, to demand a better future, but hope slipped in alongside her nerves. They could rise up. They could reclaim their town. The group began to chatter animatedly, discussing possible action and potential next steps. Among the crowd, Emma caught sight of the man who had first confronted Jack. His expression had softened, eyes glimmering with the faintest glimmer of hope. "We can create change," Emma whispered to Jack, her heart pounding. But before he could respond, Rebecca raised her hands for silence. "We have to remember, we can't let the pain of the past overshadow our dreams for the future." Let this movement be about what we can build together. Remember our stories. As the crowd nodded in solidarity, Jack leaned closer to Emma. Can you believe this? We might really do something great. And just as the hope began to swell, like a wave ready to crash, Rebecca hesitated. But there's more to this. Emma's stomach twisted with anticipation as she listened. What else could there possibly be? Rebecca took a deep breath again, her voice taking on a serious tone. Some of us have powerful voices that could sway their decisions. But there are risks involved. Are we ready to face them? The weight of her words hung in the air, thick with implications. Would they dare to fight for their community at any cost? As Emma looked into the faces around her, she found both fear and a daring spirit. What sacrifices would they ultimately be willing to make for love of their community? The question loomed over them like a storm cloud ready to unleash its rain. Emma felt her heart racing again, knowing that the real journey was just beginning. Because there were secrets waiting to be uncovered, and sometimes love was wrapped in layers of sacrifice. The crowd murmured, and Emma could almost feel the tension buzzing in the air. Rebecca's words lingered like smoke, acting as both a warning and an invitation. Every face around her was filled with concern, yet there was also a flicker of determination in many eyes. Emma took a deep breath, trying to steady her own thoughts as she pushed past the unease. What kind of risks? Someone shouted from the back, a hint of anxiety in their voice. That's what I need to explain, Rebecca replied, eyeing the group with intensity. Some of the voices we may call upon have connections that could shake the foundations of how decisions are made. But those connections come with their own dangers. If we push too hard, we could provoke a backlash. Jack scoffed, brushing it off as if it were nothing. We've already faced the worst, he declared, echoing Emma's own sentiments. What's a little pushback? If anything, we should fear letting this chance slip away. Maybe that's true, Emma said quietly, but for some reason, her heart felt heavy. She could see people around her beginning to nod, the spark of hope fueling their resolve. What if they truly did provoke something far worse? But she dismissed the thought as quickly as it appeared. This was bigger than her fears. Rebecca continued, I have a list of potential allies, people who might lend their voice to our cause. Some of them are high profile, and they can give us the press we need. Emma felt excitement surging through her again. Their voices mingled with those who could create real change. It was a dream all of them had collectively shared, slowly emerging from the shadows of despair. Count me in. A young man shouted from the front. I'm in for whatever it takes. The crowd rose with enthusiasm. Waves of agreement rolled through them like a tide. Emma caught Jack's eye and saw his determination reflecting in her own. They were on the brink of something monumental, and she felt emboldened by the resolve around her, but before the excitement could reach a climax, Rebecca tempered it. However, if we go this route, we must be prepared for the consequences. Some of my contacts have been threatened before. We'll need to keep everyone safe. Silence fell again, the enthusiasm exchanged for a tense stillness. Emma's heart sank. Was she really ready to risk their safety? Jack leaned close to her. We can handle it, Em. We'll stick together. No matter what happens. But his words only half calmed her fluttering heart. They were about to dive into the deep end, and now doubts unnerved her. Another voice called out, what's the next step? Rebecca's eyes brightened. We need to organize an emergency meeting to strategize, gather those stories, and plan our approach. This is our moment, we can't back down. The air thickened again with anticipation, but Emma had one more question nagging at her. What happens if we fail? A hush fell over the group, each person contemplating the weight of those words. That was a punch to the gut for all of them. For a brief moment, fear conquered hope. We will not fail, Jack declared firmly, like a rallying cry. His voice rang strong. Failure isn't an option. We were born fighting, and this time, we will be heard. He raised his fist, and as if choreographed, others joined in around him. Together. They shouted in unison. Emma felt a surge of strength from the collective voices. Love for their community and the glimmer of hope burned brightly in her chest. They were ready to face the storm, but beneath that enthusiasm, Emma could still feel pangs of anxiety clawing at her heart. What kind of personal sacrifices would they each have to make? As the meeting concluded and people slowly dispersed, that question wrapped itself around Emma's mind. The shadows of uncertainty clung to her, refusing to let go. "Jack," she called out, rushing to catch him before he left. "Do you think we're ready for this?" He turned to her, his expression softening. "Ready or not, we're going to find out. This is about our voices, and we're stronger together. We'll face whatever comes." Emma nodded, but as she watched the crowd disperse, doubts whispered in her mind. Would they be able to withstand whatever storm lay ahead? And what if those sacrifices turned out to be more than any of them were prepared to handle? The answer loomed just out of reach, much like the challenges standing between them and their dreams of salvation. As they walked home side by side, she couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning of a long, winding road ahead. Little did she know, that road led to revelations that would test the very foundation of their fight. Would love become their greatest weapon or lead them on a path of unforeseen challenges? The next morning, the sun struggled to break through a dense blanket of clouds. Emma pulled her hoodie tighter around herself as she sat at the kitchen table, a half-finished cup of coffee cooling in front of her. The events of last night swirled in her mind, each thought laced with both hope and trepidation. Jack's reminder that they were stronger together echoed softly, but the reality of what lay ahead felt daunting. Could they really harness the power of those high-profile voices? Would stirring that pot bring more violence to their doorsteps? The phone buzzed repeatedly on the table, snapping Emma from her reverie. Rebecca was reaching out, words systematically filling the screen. The emergency meeting was set, and Emma felt a mixture of dread and excitement constrict her chest. She typed back a quick "I'm in" before stepping outside to clear her head. The brisk morning air sent chills down her spine, but it also sharpened her mind. Each breath felt like a small act of rebellion against her anxiety. As she walked through the neighborhood, she noticed the small things. A man watering his shrubs, children laughing as they climbed trees, the smell of fresh bread wafting from a nearby bakery. Life felt almost normal, but beneath the surface, a storm was brewing. Arriving at the park, she found a bench and settled in, watching the world move around her. She tried to envision the strategy meeting, crowds of people asking questions and sharing stories, their fears and aspirations all mixing together. Would they truly be able to harness that energy to create change? As she sat lost in thought, a familiar face broke through her reverie. It was Sarah, her neighbor. The older woman approached, her smile warm and genuine, but Emma could also see the lines of worry etched on her brow. "Emma. Good to see you out here. Have you heard the latest about the rally?" Sarah asked, her voice tinged with concern. "No, not really. Just trying to wrap my head around it. How are you feeling about it all?" There was a depth to her question, one that cut straight to Emma's heart. "I'm scared, honestly," Emma admitted. "What if we fail? What if I lead everyone into something dangerous?" "You're not leading them into danger. You're giving them hope. It's about time someone did." "We all feel it. We're tired of being silenced," Sarah replied, placing a reassuring hand on Emma's shoulder. "You're not alone in this, you know. We're with you." Emma looked into Sarah's eyes, filled with understanding. A surge of gratitude washed over her. "Thank you, that means a lot," she murmured, feeling a flicker of strength igniting within her. As they chatted, a small group of people began to gather at the park. Familiar faces, their laughter blending into a symphony of what felt like renewed purpose. Emotion swelled inside Emma, buoyed by the courage of her community. But what would happen when they had to confront the reality of the fight? Would their collective voices be enough to drown out the fear that threatened to close them in? Sarah waved goodbye as she joined the group, her back to Emma, and for a brief moment, Emma felt the weight of the world settle on her shoulders once again. Glimpses of the future swirled before her. If they succeeded, their voices could become a movement, but if they failed, she pulled out her phone to check in with Rebecca, hoping for reassurance. The message that appeared shattered her momentary clarity. "We might have a problem. I got a call from one of my contacts. There's been a threat against the group. We need to meet now." Emma's heart raced. Had they already stirred the waters too much? What kind of fight were they really up against? An unbearable tension gripped her as she stood, the crowd in the park now just a blurry backdrop. She felt her way through the throngs of people, each step heavy with uncertainty. They were about to step into an uncharted territory, and Emma couldn't shake the growing sense of foreboding. Would they find safety in solidarity, or had they opened Pandora's box? The answer awaited them as they came together for what would likely be a turning point, a moment that could define their fight forever. Gathered in the dimly lit back room of the community center, anxiety thumped against the walls like a heartbeat. Emma paced, stealing glances at the faces of her friends and neighbors, their expressions a mix of concern and determination. The urgency of Rebecca's message clung thick in the air, suffocating moments of hopeful chatter before it could fully emerge. Rebecca, her expression tight, stood at the front, her hands clasped together. "I know you all feel the weight of what's coming," she said, voice steady yet strained. "But we've got to talk about this threat. Ignoring it isn't an option. We can't let fear divide us." Emma swallowed hard, searching the room. She spotted Sarah, who met her gaze with a nod, a silent promise that they were in this together. It lent her some strength, but when she imagined the rally, the vulnerability of their collective cause loomed large. What if they faced violence? How could they protect each other? "A threat against us means they're scared of what we're capable of," Jack spoke up, his voice rising above the low murmurs. "They know we're coming for change." His passion was contagious, igniting a flicker of hope in Emma's chest. "But we've got to prepare. We'll need a plan, safety measures to ensure everyone here is protected." "Safety measures need to be our priority," Rebecca agreed. "Gathering isn't just about making noise anymore. We need to remember that our voices carry weight. If we want to protect each other, we need to make sure we have a clear plan of action." The crowd grew restless, unsure. Voices began to overlap, a mix of enthusiasm and fear. Emma felt herself wavering, the storm of thoughts pulling her in different directions. "What if we're only making things worse?" she asked, barely above a whisper. "What if they come for us? We can't let fear dictate our choices." Sarah countered, the fierceness in her voice reminding everyone of what they were fighting for. "This fight has never been just about us. It's for our families, our children, and everyone who has been silenced." That struck a chord deep within Emma. She thought of her siblings, of future generations who would inherit the world they created. Clenching her fists, she faced the room. "You're right. We can't be silent. We owe it to ourselves and everyone who has been silenced," she declared. "But we also need to ensure that we have a way out if things escalate. We need to watch each other's backs." As the conversation continued, solidifying strategies, Emma felt something shift within her. The noise in her mind quieted, replaced by a newfound clarity. They were a community, standing together against a common fear that sought to divide them. They began to create committees for different aspects: safety, communication, outreach. Emma found herself diving into discussions, her initial doubts fading, replaced by resolve. They shared phone numbers, designated safe zones, and created codes for quick evacuation. Hours later, as they wrapped up, Emma watched the faces of her friends light up with enthusiasm and bravery. While shadows lurked in the corners of her mind, she knew that solidarity offered them protection, but still, that lingering anxiety whispered to her. As she stepped into the cool night air, a shiver ran down her spine. Had they prepared enough? What would happen when they took their fight to the streets? The collective heartbeat of their cause felt both exhilarating and terrifying. What awaited them on that day of unity could change everything. The weight of the unknown pressed heavily on her, yet amidst fear, a flicker of hope began to glow. They were ready to face this together, whatever it may bring. But when the rally day arrived, would they be ready for what they uncovered? The sun broke through the clouds at last, casting warm light across the town as Emma stood at the park, a chill of anticipation coiling in her stomach. It was rally day, the moment they had worked so hard to prepare for. She took a deep breath, letting the warmth seep in, trying to wrap herself in the excitement coursing through the early morning air. The chatter of familiar voices swirled around her, laughter interspersing the undercurrent of anxiety. Friends and neighbors gathered with homemade signs, their faces lit with determination. Together, they formed a vibrant sea of humanity, all fueled by the desire for change. Despite her fears, Emma felt a sense of belonging swell within her, a quiet certainty that she was exactly where she needed to be. Jack appeared at her side, his presence grounding. "You ready for this?" he asked, scanning the crowd. His eyes sparkled, a mixture of hope and nerves mirroring her own. She offered a shaky smile. "As ready as I'll ever be." The murmurs from the gathering grew, a wave of energy that flowed through the group. Sarah stepped up next to Emma, her expression fierce as she raised her sign high. "Let us do this." With that, the crowd began to move, marching toward the town square, their voices rising in unison, carrying their hopes into the crisp air. Emma felt her heart race, pumping with life. This was it. This was the moment where their stories, their fears, and their dreams collided. As they reached the square, the crowd swelled even larger. Emma's breath hitched at the sight, neighbors mingling, children clapping, old friends embracing. It was a tapestry of community woven tighter with purpose. Yet, looming in the distance was an uncertainty. The threat they had prepared for lingered, a shadow casting doubt. Jack took the stage, his confidence radiating as he looked out at the sea of faces. "Today, we stand as one. We have to fight for the future we deserve." The crowd erupted with affirmative cheers. Emma felt a flicker of patriotism, pride swelling with every passing word. Could they really do this? The rhythmic chanting began, a heartbeat for their cause. "We are strong." The sentiment reverberated in her chest. But as the energy soared, the sound of sirens suddenly pierced the air. Emma's heart sank. She turned to see police vehicles edging closer, officers emerging who didn't look ready for a friendly conversation. Panic rippled through the crowd, and Emma's heart raced. "Stay together!" Sarah shouted, rallying everyone. Emma gripped Jack's hand tightly, sensing fear woven with determination. The moment had arrived. Jack stepped off the stage to face the officers. "We're here peacefully," he insisted, voice steady like a rock anchoring against stormy seas. "We just want to be heard." One officer raised his hand, and Emma felt a collective breath among the crowd. "We cannot allow protests that disrupt the peace," he stated, his tone firm. Emma felt anger flare up within her. "This isn't just a protest. This is our community. We deserve to be heard." Her voice cut through the tension, buoying courage from those around her. Jack looked at her, astonished and inspired. "Emma." "Yes," he called, stepping back to join her on the ground. As if reacting to her energy, more voices rose up. "Let us speak," came the rallying cry, echoing through the square. The officer hesitated, glancing at his colleagues. "If you remain peaceful, you can share your grievances," he conceded slowly, unsure. In that moment, freedom surged, a wave of relief sweeping through Emma. They had stood together against unfounded fears. The crowd burst into cheers, voices entwining, blending together like a beautiful song that echoed off the buildings. Jack stepped forward, positioned between the crowd and the officers. "We are here to stand up for our community, share our stories, and reconnect with our roots. We want to work with you, not against you." The crowd roared at his words, energy electrifying the atmosphere. Emma felt her heart swell as the sound reverberated through her. They were not just fighting against a system, they were fighting for each other, for families, for their past, and their future. As stories began to flow, heart-wrenching experiences, dreams of rebuilding lives, something beautiful unfurled before them. Each word shared strengthened their bond, drawing everyone closer together, a knot of resilience in the face of adversity. The officers began listening more intently, their expressions shifting from skepticism to curiosity. When finally, an older woman stepped forward, she took a deep breath and began, "I lost my job because of the layoffs. My family is struggling." Emma watched as tears streamed down her cheeks, resonating with the crowd and pulling more stories out to the surface. It was honest, raw, and powerful. They didn't just want to take, they wanted to unite, to create change that would reverberate through generations. With each passing moment, joy and pain intertwined in a beautiful tapestry of humanity, reflecting their collective strength. And just like that, walls began to come down between the officers and protesters, between fear and resolve. In that space, love became actionable, transforming despair into hope, doubt into unity. By the end of the rally, it was clear they had started to find their way back, a pathway leading toward healing and growth. Jack turned to Emma, eyes glistening with pride. "We did it," he whispered. "Together." She felt tears of joy fill her eyes as she realized how far they had come. Love, they had learned, was always worth fighting for. As the crowd began to disperse, a renewed motivation lingered in the air. They held hands, family and friends standing with each other, together strong. What had started as individual fears had now transformed into a powerful movement. Emma took a deep breath, feeling lighter than air. "This is just the beginning," she said, looking toward Jack with an unwavering belief. And in that moment, she knew they would continue this journey side by side. The light from above broke through the last of the clouds, illuminating them like a beacon of hope for future days to come. This is the moment to support this channel. Subscribe now to not miss out on exclusive stories that uplift and inspire. Leave a like, it truly helps propel our message and reach. Comment your thoughts and feelings about the ending, let us know your reactions. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this remarkable transformation. Stand with us, your support means the world.